Welcome to Google Weekly.
Welcome, my name is Bjorn Berendt, and this is the Google Weekly Podcast, which is part of the AskBG.net network of EdTech services. Never stop learning. This is episode 19, Google Science Fair with Cristin Frondella of Google, recorded March 5th, 2012. Welcome, everybody. I have a great show lined up this week. Before I get into the interview and what's new in Google, I want to talk about some pre-show news. First thing, I will be presenting in person at the New England One-to-One Summit, and that will be this Saturday in Burlington, Massachusetts. It is a free conference, so if you can, I think there's still time to register for that. Okay, expect some changes to the website and to the show. I'm kind of rebranding the show under a new podcast network called EdListen.com. I registered the domain name recently, and I've been kind of playing with some new podcasts that I wanted to add up, so I decided to build a network. Next thing, I've also monetized the site some. I've added some AdWords ads. I also added an Amazon.com link, so if you purchase from Amazon, I encourage you, go to the show website first, google-weekly.net, and then click on the Amazon.com link, and then just do your purchasing. That's a great way to support the show, and that will help out, just for the little tiny costs around here and the yearly cost there. Next thing, I also added a My Podcasting gear. I know a lot of podcasters get, what are you using for equipment? And cool thing about Amazon is they pretty much sell everything. So I've added like a little widget with all the gear that I've purchased for the podcast that you can kind of go through. And if you want to start up your own podcast and maybe purchase some of the equipment that I'm having, I encourage you to go through that link. Look at the My Podcasting gear and add some of the mics I've put in there and some of the, I have my mixer on there. And I just bought a little recording tool so I can not lose my shows, just as a backup. And I promised you that I would talk about the Google's new policy that went into effect March 1st. And I did a blog post about this, and I'm not the best writer out there, which is why I try and host a podcast instead of a blog. But hopefully I did a good enough job in that blog post that you guys can get an idea. But I'm just going to highlight a few things. First of all, it's a combination of 60 different policies all smushed together into one. So they took all their different apps that they own and decided to say, we're going to put this all into one policy and it's going to be easier to read. This is a good thing. And a lot of people have now been able to read the policy and then realize that, hey, this is not maybe what I thought it was. One of the key things is people are focusing on is that Google shares your information within its own services. What this means is what you type into Google+, YouTube can actually benefit from. So what you type into even just searching and things like that, YouTube will find out about this. Google Plus will know about it. It's the ability, it allows them to be able to take your Google Plus circles and information and bring them in as context into Gmail, which you'll hear about in the What's New as is one of the new features. And that's all becoming available to you because of this policy change. So this is a good thing. So if you want to see what information Google has on you, you can go to google.com/dashboard and see all the information from all the services, all related that Google has from you. You also can log in and I think it's google.com/history and see all the websites and things that you have searched for. You can go through that dashboard and even just take out information that you don't want public or shared within the Google services, and you can manage all your data. Now, the one thing I really want to highlight is Google does not give out any of your personal information to advertisers. It will share it within its own item. So with any tool that it owns, it will share your personal data, but it will not share it with anybody outside of that. And Google is built on advertising, so that may put a lot of fear into a lot of people. It's like, oh my goodness, they're willing to share their information, but they're only willing to share the information within their own services to provide better features. The way that Google works with its advertising is it takes all that information. So it knows your location, what phone you have, websites that you've been to, and then it takes advertisers, and advertisers say, well, I want people with Android phones who live in the Northeast region or Android phones who live in Australia and things like that. And then it will target ads. So when you're on a website, just any website, even the Google Weekly website that has the monetized AdWords, it will say, okay, well, I know this about you because you're associated with Google. And here's an ad that may interest you. This is a good thing because that means the ads that you are getting bombarded with and that you do see are ones that are targeted to you and that might be interested to you. When I put the AdWords link on the Google Weekly podcast and I went to see what it looked like, the first thing that came up was a professional development thing in Vermont. And I'm like, ooh, this actually is interested to me. So this is all good information to help give you information that interests you. The last thing I wanted to quickly mention with this Google's policy change, or actually just one of Google's overlying themes, is that the way they make money is through advertising. And they're very generous to the community that helps them get advertising. So, for example, Android. They give away the Android OS. What you see on your phones is free for every single manufacturer and you, if you wanted to build on. So they give them the building blocks, and they give it away for free. They don't have any cost. It's open source. Anybody can go and see it, see what's written. And this would be the equivalent of Apple saying, here you go, anybody. Anybody can put Apple OS on any device. Apple charges for their OS. Apple charges for their devices. Google said, here you go. Anybody can have this. And what Google is hoping is that people will adopt this. And then it's just a little advertising on the apps and things like that they'll make their money back on this. The other place that they give away is Google Apps. This is a great product that they give away to schools and nonprofits. This is the equivalent of Microsoft giving away Office or Windows to all schools and nonprofits. Microsoft doesn't. They're based off a paid model, which is good, but Google's based off an advertising model. So we get it for free as long as we deal with some of the advertising. The new policy has taken an effect. You can go to the dashboard and your history to see what it has on you. Okay, and on to what's new in Google. First of all, I just found out this by accident. If you have Google Chrome and you're on a website and you want it to be something that sits on your desktop as a little app, they've had the ability to do this in the past, and then the feature, I don't know if it either went away or if it just disappeared and I didn't find it. But now if you go to a website, let's say you want to do the Google-Weekly podcast, you go to the Google Weekly podcast, you click on the wrench. I guess you can go to any website, you click on the wrench, go to Tools, and they'll have a little button that says Create Application Shortcuts. And what this will do is it'll create a little shortcut on your desktop straight to the website, and it will take out all the forward and back buttons, and it'll look like a native app that you would normally install on your computer. So that's a little tiny feature that I recommend. Next, the Google Search Control Panel has a new faster search options, or has some new search options. So if you're an administrator of a school and you know by now that if you do a search, it doesn't work that well. For a search company, I wish that could be a little bit better, but they now added the operator. So if you do first name, colon, and enter like Rob, you will search everything that has the first name of Rob. If you do last name, colon, Smith, so those operators are now in the control panel, so you can search by last name now or first name. You can open email links directly in Gmail using Chrome. So if you have Google Chrome installed and you're surfing the web and you come up on this really cool website and they have email us and it's an email link, in the past, if you clicked on that link, it would open up in a little email window. And if you're on Windows, it'd open up in Outlook Express or whatever your default email provider is. But if you're using a web-based email application like Gmail, it won't pop up. Well, now it will, and there's actually a little pop-down box that says, do you want to approve this feature? You can now open up those links if you're using Gmail. Next, there are more controls for administrators with the new options in chat settings. What this means is the administrators of your school can now choose what people can do, and this is at the organizational level. So I'm just going to read these off. You can allow users to place phone calls to landlines and mobile phones from chat. You can allow users to place phone calls from chat to other chat users. You can allow users to place video calls from chat to other chat users. And you can set to allow transfer files to other chat users. What this means is that you can either allow it or disallow it at the organizational level. So that's a great little chat options for administrators. You can take your Google Contacts and integrate it with profiles and your Google Plus circles. I'm not as sold on this integration. I wish it was more let me choose, because I use my Gmail and my Google Plus completely differently, and I have a completely different set of contacts. So my Gmail is more my private, my business, and my school contacts and people I really contact with in that manner, where my Google Plus is actually more, I have over 2,000 educators that I follow in my Google Plus circles. So, and I don't necessarily want all those 2,000 educators into my Gmail contacts, but they are combining this. So if you do use your Gmail Plus to really contact your friends and things like that, it will bring those together. Next, there is a new presentation editor is now the default editor, and also with discussions like there is in Google Apps. I was actually going to originally skip this, but I also wanted to highlight the discussions. There's discussions feature in Docs, and now in the presentation editor is one of the better ways that you can get students to do peer collaboration, or you can collaborate with your students without editing the actual document. So take a look at the new editor, and especially at the discussions. Okay, with that, I think it's about time to hit the meat and potatoes of the show and the interview with Cristin Frondella from Google talking about the Google Science Fair. Welcome. I'm here with Cristin Frondella from Google, and we're going to be talking about the Google Science Fair. Hello, Cristin.
Hi, Bjorn.
I know I've talked about the Google Science Fair, or at least I should say, in a previous episode, I announced that it was available, but I didn't go into much detail as to what it is and all the other details about it, I guess. So I got you on here.
I'm happy to tell you all about it.
Well, great.
All right.
So what is it?
The Google Science Fair is an online science competition for students between the ages of 13 to 18 from all over the world. Essentially, we ask students to do a science experiment via the scientific method, the same as science experiments that you might see in more traditional science fairs, like in high school auditoriums or middle school auditoriums where you see kids with, cardboard trifolds where they're talking about experiments that they might do with, mice or hamsters or plants or anything like that. So basically, we wanted to bring the traditional science fair online, bring it into the 21st century. So we created some tools which allow kids to post their findings via all kinds of different multimedia, whether they want to do presentations via Google Presentations or videos by uploading onto YouTube. They can do that and tell us about their science experiment and take us through what their concept is, what their hypothesis is, what all of their content is, what their findings were, what their conclusion is, all through online tools in a very simple way. And so the Google Science Fair opened this year on January 12th. It's our second year ever of doing it, and you can submit your science projects. You can register and submit your science projects up until April 1st.
Okay, so they can register and submit to April 1st. So we got some time there.
They got a little bit of time. A lot of people are working on science projects, outside of this. So if you're working on a science project already, you should feel free to go ahead and upload your science project onto our tools. And you could do that by going to google.com/sciencefair. And we're working with some really great partners, the same partners that we worked with last year. They are CERN, which is basically the physics lab in Switzerland. We're working with LEGO. We're working with National Geographic and with Scientific American. And together, we're all offering some really terrific prizes for the winners of our science fair. Things like a $50,000 scholarship from Google, a 10-day trip to the Galapagos Islands with a National Geographic explorer, some real-life work experiences, including an opportunity to go to CERN in Switzerland and actually see the Hadron Collider.
Oh, wow.
And just some really great prizes. We will also be bringing our top 15 finalists to Google in Mountain View, California on July 22nd and 23rd. Before that, however, we'll be announcing 90 top regional finalists, and we'll be announcing them in May from all over the world. And from those 90 finalists, we will pick the top 15 finalists.
So I'm from Vermont. So is there going to be one regional person from Vermont, or is it like New England?
No, it's regional for the United States.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's probably a lot of schools out there that are already doing science fairs and have the big hosting and I guess the poster board and everything else. Hopefully that's been updated since I was in school.
It hasn't always, actually.
So pretty much any student who's doing those science fairs can submit to this. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Their projects will absolutely translate entirely online. So basically, as I mentioned before, we use the scientific method, or we encourage kids to use the scientific method. And we spec out that scientific method in our online tools. So we tell you exactly which step you need to follow for each section of your online Google Science Fair site.
Okay. How long do you think it would take for someone to submit their project?
To submit their project, it wouldn't take very long at all. I mean, it would be a matter of, showing your work in different tools. So things like having spreadsheets might be important, or maybe having a presentation might be important. So it'd be important to have those assets, and those assets would be, have to be available first. But then actually putting together a site could probably take as short as, I'd say, probably an hour, as long as you're able to point to those assets. It's a very, very simple process.
Okay. Now, how about, do you have any examples from last year's winners? Because you said this is year two.
Yeah, last year's winners were pretty incredible. And you can actually hear from last year's winners. This week, we're actually doing a hangout with Will.i.am from the Black Eyed Peas. And he is hosting 5 of our finalists from last year. And you can actually participate in this hangout on this Thursday, March 8th. At 2:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, if you visit Will.i.am's Google Plus page, so just go to Google Plus and search Will.i.am, you'll see more details about it, and you can join our hangout, which you can also see there. But he's actually meeting with 5 of our finalists from last year, and so some of our finalists, let's see. Our grand prize winner, her name is Shri Bose, and she did an amazing project about ovarian cancer research. And essentially, when patients present with ovarian cancer, oftentimes they're given a drug called cisplatin, and it works oftentimes the first time the patient presents. But sometimes when they come back, they may be given the same drug again, and their bodies have become resistant to that drug. So Shri actually investigated what would happen if you suppressed a particular protein called AMP kinase in the body when giving them cisplatin, and it was actually a fairly big breakthrough in cancer research. So that was the winning prize last year. But we're not always looking for prizes or for projects that are that big. We're also looking for kids who are just asking some regular questions in the world, like things like how could certain things affect their communities. So last year, one of the projects that we saw was by a woman named Harini, a young woman named Harini from India. And what she wanted to do was investigate how power surges happen in rural villages and what she could do to address power surges in rural villages. She became interested in this because her grandparents live in a rural village outside of where she lives in India, and every time she went there, she had to do her homework at a particular time based on when she had power, when she had electricity. Her grandparents rise at a particular time so that they can actually do their chores based on when that electricity is going to be most viable and most predictable. So she really wanted to study, how could she affect her community? And we actually have a prize this year that's sponsored by Scientific American. It's called the Science in Action Prize. and it encourages kids to investigate problems that affect their communities in particular. And Scientific American will be granting a prize to a kid who comes up with a breakthrough to address one of their community problems. And they will be getting a cash prize with that, and then also be granted a mentor, and the mentor will help them actually work through this problem and make some sort of advancement in that problem via their project.
Absolutely amazing. And again, how old are these students?
These kids are between the ages of 13 and 18. So Shri, for example, was 17 last year when she won. Harini, I believe, was 15 last year when she submitted this project. So, I mean, these kids are incredible. But like I said, we're looking for kids who are asking questions like these, and then also just real-world questions. You know, it's all about curiosity. It's all about encouraging people to wonder how things happen, wonder where things came from, wonder what kind of changes they can encourage or make in the world.
I think that's just absolutely amazing, and I'm glad that Google is sharing this. What can the teacher do? What is the teacher's role in this?
Well, we actually have a great teacher resource on our site. So if you go to google.com/science fair, there is a page specifically meant for teachers, and it's got all kinds of teacher resources. So what are projects that people have done? How can teachers get their kids involved? What kind of curriculum items are there? There's all kinds of items there for teachers to dig into. How could they use some of our tools to get their kids online in a really simple and
format.
In a simple way.
Okay. Is there anything else about this that I haven't even, because like I said, this is new to me, and I threw up some questions that, I may have thought of, but is there anything else like being able to connect with other students doing this? Is there other teachers?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. So we are encouraging students to get involved. They could either submit projects by themselves or in groups of up to 3. So if they want to work with other students, we encourage them to work with other students. The only thing that they'll need to do is sign up online with an email account and also get permission from one of their parents. And we're just, we need to ensure that their parents are aware that they're working on these projects and that they get permission for it. And again, it's for kids between the ages of 13 to 18 all over the world. And this year, one of the things we're doing differently is kids can submit their projects in many different languages. So in addition to English, 13 other languages, kids can submit their projects in, so that we can make sure that we're getting as many kids as possible from all over the world.
Well, I think that's great, and that actually helps out my own school. I have a small school in Vermont, but 10% of our population is international.
Great.
So
and so we are accepting projects in a bunch of languages. So hopefully, hopefully it would address your kids.
I think it's great. Well, is there anything? Anyway, should people?
I totally understand, but yeah. So
you get
if you have any
tongue-tied doing this.
questions at all, I totally get tongue-tied.
Well, I was
If
gonna
you
say,
have any questions at all, you could actually check a couple of places. First place to check, I would say, is our website, and it's google.com/sciencefair.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second place I would check is our Google Plus page, and we do a lot of updates on our Google Plus page. If we have social stuff to share, you can find out stuff about the Will.i.am Hangout this week on our Google Plus page. So if you go to Google Plus and search for Google Science Fair, please add Google Science Fair to your circles, and we'll start showing up in your feed.
Yeah, I think I've been using the Google Plus feeds to get all the information for the show, and I'm getting a lot more information from that lately than I have the main Google Apps blog. So I'm happy to see that.
Yeah, and I think we're trying to. You're going to see that. Yeah, I think you're going to see that more often because we really want to make sure that we're being as interactive and also as concise as possible. So with Google Plus, it really encourages people to communicate and to communicate fairly often, but to communicate in a way that people actually want to get information now, and people want to get information more often, but in shorter blurbs. So generally, Google Plus makes it very easy to do that.
Okay, well, I was
also share pictures and videos, which people love.
Well. Would you mind me posting a link to your Google Plus page?
No, please do. Please post a link to our Google Plus, Google Science Fair page. That would be terrific.
Okay. Well, with that, I'm going to probably end the interview. It doesn't have to be that long. I try and keep this show pretty short so teachers can listen to it during their prep period.
All right.
Any last remarks? Actually, before I go, do you have any favorite apps either Android or anything like that, just to throw a little spin into this?
Do I have any favorite apps?
Favorite apps, Android apps?
I do have favorite apps. This week I'll say my favorite app is pretty simple. It's a man with a camera, and I really just like taking photos and adding new filters to the photos. So that's what I'll say this week. There are a ton of really great educational apps as well that people are using. I know folks really love Aviary, and we hear about that app an awful lot. So we really like that app a lot. There's a ton. I'm kind of blanking off the top of my head, but I'll name those two.
I should warn my interviewees that I usually ask that question.
I would have taken out my my Android earlier and looked at it. I don't have it on me, but I would recommend those two apps highly. Well,
it's catching you off guard actually works out because it pulls out the one that you think of the most. So a man with a camera, I'm looking forward to looking at that one.
And Aviary.
I use Aviary already. I think I've mentioned it a couple times. Well, thank you very much for coming on to the show. And
my pleasure, Bjorn. Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye. I'll see you later.
Well, that was a great interview. I'm very happy that Cristin took her time to come on to the show, and I thank you very much for doing that and talking about the Google Science Fair. I think it's a great event, and I'm looking forward to getting my teachers involved. And on to the app exploration part of the show. This week, I have another learning management system for the Marketplace app, and this is Docebo eLearning LMS. There has been a 5-star review on this one. It is free for up to 10 users, and according to their site there, not on their full website, but on their app marketplace, it says under $2 a user per year is they're starting. So I'm guessing that's their educational pricing. I was quickly looked at their website and some of their demos, and it looks like a good learning management system. It reminded me a little bit more of Moodle, where it was less graphical and fancy, but really fine-grained, and I guess I have to go in to see how well built it is and how well the tools are, but it looked like a great learning management system at a great price. So check that out. That's Docebo eLearning LMS, and I'll put the link in the show notes. So the app of the week from the Chrome website, and I chose Floorplanner. This looks like a really cool tool that you can get out and do layouts for floor plans. It is free. It just puts a shortcut on the website, but it looks like a really cool website, so you can just go straight to the website Floorplanner, or you can integrate it with your Chrome web store, and it'll do a single sign-on with Google Apps. Okay, the last is the Android app of the week, and besides the one that was mentioned, a man with a camera, which I will put in the show notes, I also wanted to include Dr. Seuss the Lorax. This is a 99-cent, or it's actually 99 cents this week. They have a deal going on. And this is an interactive ebook for kids talking about Dr. Seuss. And I know a lot of schools were doing Dr. Seuss themes going on. I may have missed it by a week, but it's a really cool app, and I can't express more how much my kids actually like Dr. Seuss. So it has lasted the test of time, and I encourage you. Great ebook there. Okay, I think that's going to end the show. So thank you for listening to the Google Weekly Podcast with your host, Bjorn Berendt. You can follow the podcast and contribute by going to www.google-weekly.net. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. And I encourage you to get the conversation going around the show by posting your comments using the hashtag GWPodcast within your social network. Again, thank you for listening, and never stop learning.
This is Torrance, and thank you for listening.